Autumn has officially come. It came on the calendar a few days ago, and the world is truly starting to see it, even here in hot, humid Mississippi. The air is getting colder, the rain is coming more often, and it's falling a little more chilly. The leaves are beginning to change. And there's a noticeable change in the air all around you. Let's tell a story about how this occurs and why this occurs. Because a long, long time ago, someone decided to get married. Many, many, many years ago, the goddess Persephone, daughter of Demeter, goddess of agriculture and plants and all things that humans grow to eat, was in a field by herself, possibly picking some flowers, possibly looking after the grass, possibly enjoying a fine view, when there was an enormous crack in the earth, and a great black chariot sprang forth from a chasm underneath the ground. And the god of the underworld, Hades himself, grabbed her and took her with him back to his kingdom of the underworld. Later on, Demeter tried to find her daughter, and when she could not, she began to panic with motherly worry. She went around asking everyone that was nearby if they had seen or heard anything. Finally, she found Hecate, goddess of the crossroads, goddess of magic, and all the dark arts that are best left unknown. Hecate said that she had not seen anything, but she did hear a scream that sounded like Persephone, and that Demeter's best bet would be to ask Helios, the titan of the sun, for he sees all, if it was during the day. When Demeter went to ask Helios, he tells her the story of what occurred. He tells her about Persephone's kidnapping by Hades, but more importantly, he tells her why this occurred. For it had been decided by Zeus, the king of the gods, that his brother, Hades, should have a wife, and that Persephone would make a fine bride for him. And so, he officiated the proposal for them. He arranged their marriage. And thus it was that Hades went and retrieved his soon-to-be bride. Demeter could not gainsay Zeus, the king of the gods, and there was no recourse for her to get her daughter back. So she became despondent. She became withdrawn. She ran to one of her temples, and she hid herself inside, occasionally having dalliances and distractions, but always she would return to her black despair of never being able to see her beloved daughter again. This had drastic consequences for the world, for without Demeter's personal guidance, no living things would grow from the earth. No plants would blossom. No fruit would be thick and heavy. No trees would bear their leaves. Everything would be dead and coarse and barren upon the earth. And humanity would die. Without humanity, their prayers would be stifled. And the gods would receive no sweet ambrosia, no thick nectar to drink. So, Zeus decided that something had to be done, and he sent Hermes down into the underworld to discuss the matter with Hades. When Hermes got there, he found Persephone sat upon her throne at Hades' right-hand side, bedecked as a queen should be, cared for as a queen should be, and treated with all the respect and devotion that the true queen of the underworld would be treated with. And yet Persephone was sad, for she missed her mother and her nymphs, and all the comforts of her former home. When Hermes explained the situation to Hades, he immediately requested that Persephone go and speak to her mother. And before she left, he told her not to be sad, for she would be the queen of his realm, and half of all that he ever had would be hers. She would be his most beloved wife, and he would care for her for the rest of eternity. And before she left, because of a slight worry that she would not return, he fed her 3 pomegranate seeds from a tree born and raised in the underworld. And because she had eaten the food of the underworld, she would be forever bound to it and required to return. When Persephone followed Hermes back to the land of the mortals, she found Demeter, and they had a loving reunion. But in the discussions with Zeus and Hades and Demeter and all of the council of Olympus, it was decided that because of the arranged marriage and because she had eaten the food of the underworld, Persephone would have to go back to the underworld. But she would be allowed 6 months of the year to come back to Demeter and revisit her home, during which time Demeter would be filled with joy and happiness and would care for the living things of the earth. And during the 6 months she spent in her true kingdom of the underworld, Demeter would be despondent and all things would wither and die. And this cycle would continue on to the end of time, and eventually the world would grow used to it, would cater its timing around this, and thus was the passing of the seasons born. And now you know. I hope this knowledge brings you wisdom. Failing that, I hope you enjoyed the story.